Welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee. I'm your host, Rick Alexander. You guys can interact with me or follow me at @RickAlexander_ or at the Morning Coffee Podcast on Instagram. Now, if you're getting a lot from this show, if it's changing your life or even changing the way that you look at your life, it would mean the world to me if you would head to iTunes and give us a 5-star review so that we can continue to climb the charts and get this information to more and more people. Over the last year and a half, I've focused my work on the story that we tell ourselves about our lives. Your entire life is a bit of a story that you're telling yourself. And if you could tell yourself a different story, you could probably change your life quite a bit. And so I did that work for the release of my newest book, which is coming out in early 2020. But getting excited for that release, I actually wanted to go through a lot of the information that I had learned, a lot of my notes, and synthesize it into maxims, which is what we're getting into today. I've got 21 maxims to maximize your life, and what these are is just things that seem to be true about the human experience, and if you could understand how they are true, you could understand how they could change your life. And so if you go to rickalexander.com, what you're going to find is if you click on articles, the maxim of the day is going to be posted, whatever the last maxim was, and it's also going to have journal entries and thought experiments in there so that you can figure out how to apply these things to your own lives. And so a bit of an interactive experience. So throughout the next year, through my speaking, through my book release, and through these maxims, I'm excited to see how this information can really change the world and change your world if you give it an opportunity to.
What is it that they say about the road to hell? Something about what it's paved with. You know, the problem with intentions is that they aren't specifically choices. And today, that's really what I want to get into and talk about, the difference between intentions and choices. Because undefined intentions truly create this space for mediocrity to exist. And we're going to talk today about how that happens, about how these intentions, it's like we create something in our mind and we catalog it away and we file it away as an intention or as something that we can rest on, right? It's like, oh, well, we've intended to do this thing, and so it's okay that I kind of take a couple of reps off. And the difference between intentions and choices are the reps that you're actually taking off. Because if you want to ensure something happens, like let's say, I don't know, enjoying your life, right? But like if you want to make sure anything happens really, like whether this is professional or personal or with hobbies or whatever, right? It's like you actually need to make that choice. The intentions don't always help. And so let's talk about something like, let's just say that you're wanting to enjoy your life more, right? If you make the choice to do that, then what you're actually making the choice to do is let go of the reasons that you can't enjoy your life. That's the power that a choice has over an intention. When you set an intention, you're saying, well, look, I'm going to head this direction. This is the direction that I'm hoping to go. But when you make a choice, like, again, let's say to enjoy your life, then you have to ask yourself, well, what does that choice entail? Because it most likely means letting go of what you resent, first of all. It might also mean that you create borders or boundaries around yourself to maximize the wholeness of who you are, right? Because I heard Mark Gross say this past weekend at a talk that boundaries preserve wholeness. And I thought, man, that's a genius way of describing it, because we're always feeling incomplete, right? Which is often why we allow people to come in, right? Because we think that we need fixing. We think that we need someone to help us. And so I love that idea that boundaries sort of preserve that wholeness. But you might have to make choices to lay down boundaries and then to later uphold boundaries, right? Because that might be what the choice is actually requiring of you, where an intention really doesn't require anything of you. And so oftentimes we set our intentions, and then what happens in the interim isn't sufficient enough to get us where we actually want to go. When you make a choice, you're actually deciding to become the creative force in your life in some way. A lot of times we think we're making choices, and then those choices are up for negotiation based on the circumstances that are around us and the things that are happening within our lives. And that's just never actually true. If you make a choice, it's got to be that way. It's like setting a boundary in that way, right? It's like when you set a boundary to preserve something in your life, the thing that you begin to understand to be true is that boundary cannot be negotiable. But what happens is that intentions that aren't thought out or pointed enough set us in a direction, but they don't tell us, again, how to act in the meantime. So, I talk to a lot of professionals, and I think probably just through the Clarity Academy and through my coaching programs, that have every intention of being successful, let's say, right? Like these are success-minded people, these are success-oriented people, and they're driving towards something, probably a lot like yourself. But one of the things that I realized is people haven't really taken the time to define success. Most people just hold the status quo in their head of like some sort of material success, some sort of, they put some metric around success that they can actually judge, like maybe how much they're making per year or whatever. And because that they haven't actually clearly defined what it is that success looks like, so what they've done is set their intentions on success, but now they're in a position where because they haven't defined what that success is, how could they ever possibly get it? And this is the thing that most people, unfortunately, don't take the time to do, is they don't actually take the time to define what success actually looks like for them. Because if you figure out what success looks like for you, it might actually change the problem in which you're solving. Because if success looks like $100,000 a year, there's an entire set of options that could be a solution for you, right? There's probably millions of jobs that would offer you that if you decide that that's what success is going to look like for you. But perhaps success for you looks something like, well, I only want to work 3 or 4 days a week, and then I also want to make X amount of money, and then I also want to live in X place, or maybe I want to be location independent, or maybe I want time and freedom mobility. These are all things that need to be taken into account because they're going to change the way that you're solving the problem. And so a lot of times what we're doing is we haven't defined what success looks like. And then we're marching on with our intentions to be successful or to be happy. But because we haven't defined them and because we don't know where they're going, we don't know the choices we need to make in the interim. And so then we've created this space for mediocrity to seep into our lives. I've seen lots of people enter into relationships with the intention of being a good partner. Very few people want to actually suck to be with, I'd say. But because they haven't done the work to know what that really entails, they keep missing the mark and end up heartbroken. And they're probably reliving somewhat of the same heartbreak over and over. I know this was the case with me for a long time. It wasn't until I began to actually face my demons that my intentions had a chance of being played out. Like I was like, no, I'm going to make the choice to be with this person, no matter what the narrative in my head says, no matter what comes up for me, right? Like this is a choice that I'm making in full consciousness. And so because I'm making that choice, I've got to be the arbiter of my dreams in some way. I can't allow intention to create this space for whatever to happen. It's like, no, this is the choice I'm making. It's not whatever's going to happen. It's what I'm choosing to happen. And so I'm going to make the choice to face the demons, and I'm going to make the choice to sit with the hard stuff. But too much of who we are and what drives us happens outside of our awareness for us to not make really intentional choices. Likewise, I know how many times I've set my intentions on succeeding in business, only to wind up in a place, I don't know, approximating hell, right? It's like, I want to do this. That was my first business. I want to be a CEO. I want to have a big business. I want to make money. I want to work in the fitness industry, right? And those are, first of all, every single thing I just said there is a piss poor definition of what success would be for me. And so I put myself in a position where I didn't have these clearly defined success metrics. And so even if I would have gotten what I guess was after, it probably wouldn't have really worked out. You know, I would have had to grapple with something new once I actually got there, because I would have realized pretty quickly that it's not where I wanted to be. But that brings up something else, which is when you have clearly defined success metrics and you know what the behavior should look like, right? Because that's what it is. If we set a goal, then we have to define what is the behavior that's going to get me to that goal. And so I remember early days in that first business where as opportunity comes up, it's like, well, you could tell anyone you're starting a business, and then everyone's got good ideas and people you should meet and things you should do. And so all of a sudden you're in this situation where you're constantly being asked to partner with people and to do different things. And if you haven't clearly defined what your success metrics look like, then what you begin to realize is that you're going to say yes to a lot of things that should actually be no's. And so you'll end up giving yourself to all of these different pursuits around you. And what you're going to find is you have very little left for yourself, or very little energy and resources to actually direct in the effort of your actual dream, of the place that you actually want to get. And so because we say yes to everything, to things we should say no to, because we haven't taken the time to apply boundaries to our life to preserve that wholeness, then again, what you find is that you've created this space for mediocrity to exist. And this is because success, and I mean like true, like the 5% success that people talk about. They talk about the fact that only 5% of the people in the world actually get what they want in this life. And I mean like the kind of money that they want, the kind of family life that they want, the kind of person that they want to be, like true 5% success. It's always reserved for those that execute on what they want. An intention is great for a mood or a disposition in life, but for achievement and for growth, you actually need goals for that. You actually need something to strive for. You need an aiming point. You need somewhere to put as a North Star so that you know what it is that you're heading towards. And so understand that undefined intentions do create the space for mediocrity to exist, but the antidote to that mediocrity is clearly defined success metrics, and those success metrics are yours and yours alone. It's got to be intrinsic success. Do you actually want what it is that you're heading for? Again, because if you want that 5% success, if you want to be that person, then you're going to have to make the kind of decisions that that person makes along the way, which is why just having good intentions for your life won't actually be enough to change it. And I think that's because a lot of us set really good intentions for our lives and then find out that we really start to flounder somewhere in the middle. And I don't want that for you, just like I don't want that for me. I love you guys. Have an amazing day, and we'll chat tomorrow on Morning Coffee.